I never thought one heartbreak could change the way I saw the world, but it did. I thought I had everything figured out, that love was supposed to feel like warmth, comfort, safety. But when she left me, it felt like someone had ripped the floor from under me, and I was falling into a void I didn't think I could climb out of. I tried to tell myself it wasn't the end of the world, that there would be someone else, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smile, her laugh, the way she used to reach for my hand like she couldn't get enough of me. And then silence. My name is Ryan, and for months after she left, I existed in a haze of emptiness. Friends told me to move on, to let it go, but moving on felt impossible. Every song, every place we'd been together, every tiny memory was a fresh wound. I stopped answering calls, stopped going out, stopped pretending I was okay. It was like my life had turned gray overnight, and I was trapped inside it. Then, one rainy evening, I found myself at a small coffee shop on the edge of town, the kind with worn wooden tables and soft jazz playing in the background. I wasn't looking for anything, really. I just needed somewhere to hide from my thoughts. And that's when I saw her. Not her, obviously. Not the one who left me broken. Someone else. Someone who looked exactly like her. But different. Softer somehow. Wiser, maybe. And she was staring at me like she knew all my secrets before I even spoke them. Her name was Emma. I don't even remember who spoke first, or how we started talking. But suddenly, I felt something stirring inside me that I hadn't felt in months. Something like hope, but fragile, trembling. She had this way of listening, of leaning in like the world could wait while I spoke. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I laughed. A real laugh. A laugh that didn't come out hollow. I don't know if it was fate, coincidence, or just bad timing. But she was there when I needed someone most, even if I didn't know it yet. But there was something about her, something she didn't say, that made me pause. It wasn't just the way she looked like her sister, or the way she seemed to understand me without trying. No, it was deeper. Something she carried in her eyes, a secret I could feel pressing against the surface, waiting to be discovered. And as I left that coffee shop that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change in ways I could never predict. I had been broken, yes, but maybe, just maybe, she was the one who could make me whole again. Only, there was one problem I hadn't expected. After that night at the coffee shop, I couldn't stop thinking about Emma. She had this way of slipping into my thoughts, gentle but insistent, like she belonged there even when I didn't want anyone to. Over the next few days, I found myself making excuses to see her again, stopping by the cafe, sending a casual text, anything to hear her voice. And every time we met, I realized just how different she was from her sister, the one who had left me shattered. Emma was kind, but not in a way that demanded attention. She had this quiet strength, the kind that made people trust her without even thinking about it. Her laughter wasn't loud or forced. It was soft, like sunlight filtering through the blinds, and it had a way of breaking through the walls I'd built around myself. She didn't rush me. She didn't push me. And somehow, without trying, she was already becoming the person I leaned on, the one I started to imagine a future with, even though my heart still ached from the past. I hadn't told her about her sister yet. I wasn't ready, and part of me wondered if I ever would be. The thought of talking about her brought a tightness in my chest I couldn't shake. But every time she smiled, every time her hand brushed mine, I felt this confusing mix of guilt and longing. Could I really open up to someone who reminded me so much of the one who'd left? Could I risk being hurt again, even if it was by a completely different person? Emma seemed to know things about me without asking, but I didn't know why. Sometimes, I caught her looking at me with this intensity, like she was trying to figure something out, but I had no idea what. There were small things, moments that didn't make sense, a hesitation before she laughed at a joke, a flicker of something behind her eyes, a question she avoided answering. I pushed the thoughts away at first, telling myself I was being paranoid. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe that maybe this was my chance to heal, to move on. And yet, there was an unease I couldn't shake. Something about Emma didn't quite fit into the story I was telling myself. Maybe it was the way she seemed to know my habits, my moods, my little quirks, too well, almost unnervingly so. Or maybe it was the way she sometimes went quiet, as if she was holding something back. Whatever it was, it made me curious, made me want to dig deeper, even if a part of me feared what I might find. By the end of that week, I realized I was falling, not for her sister, not for the one who left me, but for Emma. And with every step closer, every laugh shared and glance held a little longer, the tension between us grew, unspoken yet undeniable. But there was a question hovering above everything, silent yet heavy. Why did she feel so familiar? And that question, I would soon learn, was only the beginning of a truth far more complicated and dangerous than I could have ever imagined. It started with small things, tiny moments that made my heart skip and my mind spin. Emma would sometimes say something her sister used to say, in that same exact tone, or laugh at a joke the same way. At first, I thought I was imagining it, my mind filling in gaps because I was still raw from the heartbreak. But then I caught myself noticing patterns, the tilt of her head, the way her eyes narrowed when she was thinking, the way she'd reach out to touch my arm just when I needed comfort. It was uncanny, and it unnerved me more than I cared to admit. The more time I spent with her, the more complicated everything became. Part of me wanted to lean in, to let myself fall completely, because she felt like a safe place, a chance to breathe again. But the other part, the part scarred and wary, kept asking questions I didn't have answers to. Was it just coincidence? Or was there something more? Something I wasn't supposed to see yet? Then, one evening, it all came to a head. We were sitting on the park bench near the river, rain lightly tapping the pavement, when she reached out and took my hand. The touch was electric, sending a warmth I hadn't felt in months through my chest. But the look in her eyes wasn't entirely soft. There was something guarded there, something unspoken, a secret pressing just below the surface. I wanted to ask her, to confront it, but the words stuck in my throat. You remind me of someone, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. She froze. Her grip tightened just slightly, then relaxed, but the hesitation in her eyes told me she'd been expecting this moment, or dreading it. I'm not who you think I am, she said carefully, almost too carefully. But I can't tell you not yet. And just like that, the fragile sense of trust and comfort I had started to build shattered. My mind raced with questions, doubts, and fear. Who was she really? Why did she feel so familiar, so painfully connected to the one who broke me? Was I being pulled into something I couldn't escape? I left that night confused, heart pounding, trying to make sense of the emotions twisting inside me. Emma's secret hung over me like a storm cloud, heavy and dark, and I knew I couldn't ignore it. Something was coming, something I couldn't control, and I had no idea how far it would reach. And then I got the message that would change everything. A single sentence from someone I never expected to hear from again. The message came late that night, glowing on my phone like a warning I couldn't ignore. It was from her, her sister, the one who had left me shattered. My hands shook as I read the words. You don't know the whole story. Meet me. Now. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Wanted to tell myself it was a mistake, a cruel joke. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Something about the urgency, the way the words felt sharp and dangerous, pulled me forward. I didn't know if I was going to regret it, or if it was the first step toward the truth I had been avoiding. The rain had picked up when I arrived at the small, dimly lit cafe she'd asked me to meet at. The streets glistened under the streetlights, puddles reflecting the night like broken mirrors. I stepped inside, my heart hammering, and saw her sitting there, her face partially hidden beneath the hood of her coat. Time seemed to stretch as I approached, every step weighted with fear and anticipation. You came, she said, her voice soft but edged with something I couldn't place. She looked older somehow, worn by experiences I didn't understand, carrying a gravity that made the air around her feel tense. I nodded, unable to speak, my mind racing with 1,000 possibilities. I know you've been seeing Emma, she said suddenly, and I flinched. I hadn't expected her to know. And I know what you're thinking. I don't understand. I stammered, the words catching in my throat. She shook her head slowly, eyes filled with something between sadness and warning. You've been falling for her. But she's not just anyone. She's connected to me in ways you don't even realize. And if you keep going down this path, you'll end up hurt, badly. My stomach turned. I wanted answers, but the tension in her tone made me hesitate. Every instinct screamed that there was more, something enormous she wasn't telling me. Connected how? I asked cautiously, my voice barely audible over the patter of rain against the windows. She looked away for a moment, as if weighing whether to break the silence with the truth, then back at me with eyes that pierced through every layer of pretense I'd built around my heart. Emma, she's not who you think she is. And what you felt, everything that's drawing you to her, it's only part of the story. The rest is dangerous. And it's coming for you faster than you realize. I swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing on me like a vice. My mind reeled, trying to make sense of the fragments I had. The familiar looks, the way Emma seemed to know me too well, the strange intensity behind her eyes. And yet, I had no idea just how deep the rabbit hole went. Before I could ask another question, the cafe door opened, letting in a gust of cold wind that rattled the lights and sent shivers down my spine. And then I saw her, Emma, standing there in the doorway, drenched from the rain, eyes locked on mine, a look I had never seen before. It wasn't warmth this time. It was warning. And in that moment, I realized I was standing on the edge of something I might not survive. Emma stepped inside, shaking off the rain, but her eyes never left mine. The warmth I had felt around her before was gone. Instead, there was an intensity, a sharp edge that made my chest tighten. "You need to know the truth," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "Everything my sister told you, it was only part of it. The rest involves you." I blinked, confused. "Me? What do you mean?" She took a step closer, and the air between us seemed to crackle. "She left you not because she didn't love you, but because she needed to protect you. From me." My stomach dropped. "Protect me from you?" Emma's eyes glinted with a mix of sorrow and determination. "I didn't just fall for you. I've been watching you, learning everything about you. Because if my sister hadn't intervened, you would have been pulled into something you weren't ready for. Something dangerous. And now, it's too late to turn back." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind spun with questions, fear, and disbelief. Then she smiled. A small, terrifying smile, and said, "And the worst part? You're already too far in to escape." I stared at her, frozen, unable to process what she had just said. My mind raced in circles, trying to reconcile the girl I thought I knew with the storm standing before me. Emma had always been gentle, patient, a refuge from the pain I'd carried. And now, she was the source of a danger I couldn't even name. "You have to trust me," she said, taking my hand. Her grip was firm, unwavering. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to save you from a past neither of us can ignore." Before I could respond, the cafe door burst open. Her sister appeared, drenched and furious, eyes blazing with fear and anger. "Ryan, you don't know what you're dealing with," she shouted. Emma stepped in front of me, shielding me without hesitation. "It's too late to stop this. You're already caught in it," she said. And then I understood. The pieces clicked into place, the uncanny familiarity, the subtle manipulations, the warnings. Emma's presence, her closeness, had always been more than coincidence. She had orchestrated it all, guiding me closer, testing me, preparing me for something I had no idea I'd have to face. My heart pounded, chest tight, as the two sisters stared at each other. Why involve me?" I whispered, my voice cracking. Emma's eyes softened for a split second. "Because you're the only one who can end this. The only one who can survive what's coming." And then, in a heartbeat, everything changed. Her sister reached into her coat and pulled out a small, folded envelope, tossing it onto the table. I opened it with trembling hands and froze. Inside were pictures of moments Emma had shared with me, but edited, twisted, manipulated. Each one painted a story I didn't recognize. A version of Emma who had been watching, controlling, shaping my life long before I even met her. I looked up, horror-stricken. Emma smiled softly, almost tenderly, but her eyes were unreadable. "The truth," she said, "is far stranger than you could ever imagine. And now, you have a choice." I swallowed, heart racing. The storm of betrayal, love, and fear collided inside me, and I realized this wasn't just about surviving Emma's secret. It was about deciding whether I could ever trust anyone again. And then, without warning, the envelope slid across the table, revealing a final card. "I've been expecting you, Ryan." I stared at the card, my hands trembling, heart hammering in my chest. Every piece of the puzzle, every moment with Emma and her sister suddenly made sense. And yet, the full picture was more complicated than I could have imagined. Over the next few days, I confronted the truth. Emma had indeed been orchestrating parts of my life. not out of malice, but out of a twisted sense of protection. Her sister had been right to intervene, stepping in when I was too blind to see the danger I was in. What I had initially thought was manipulation was actually a series of safeguards, tests to ensure I could handle the truths hidden in their world. I met both sisters one final time, in that same cafe where it had all begun. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under a soft morning sun. Emma looked at me, eyes open and honest. No more masks, no more secrets. Her sister gave me a small, knowing smile, a mixture of relief and lingering warning. I hope you understand now, her sister said, voice calm. Not everything in life is simple. Some people come into your life to teach you, to challenge you, to push you past what you think you can handle. You've been tested, Ryan, and you passed. Emma reached for my hand again, but this time it felt different. Not a shield, not a warning, but a bridge. I never wanted to hurt you, she said softly. I wanted to show you who you could become, even when you were broken. For the first time in months, I breathed without the weight of fear or heartbreak pressing on me. I realized that healing wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending the pain didn't exist. It was about understanding, accepting, and choosing to move forward anyway. I smiled at Emma, and for the first time, I saw her as she truly was. Not just a reflection of her sister, not just a mysterious presence in my life, but a person full of strength, compassion, and depth. And I realized something even more important. The love we feel doesn't always come in simple packages. Sometimes, it comes with challenges, lessons, and truths we aren't ready for. But that's what makes it real. Her sister stood, ready to leave, glancing back at me one last time. Remember, she said, life doesn't wait for anyone. Make your choices wisely. And with that, she was gone, leaving Emma and me to face a world that suddenly felt both terrifying and full of possibility. We walked out into the morning sun together, hands brushing, hearts still cautious but open. I didn't know what the future held, and maybe that was the point. Life wouldn't be perfect, but it could be ours, messy, complicated, and full of unexpected beauty. And as we disappeared into the bustling streets, I realized that sometimes the people who break us first are the ones who prepare us to be made whole again.